This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? It's a brand new week and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. Of course, we're going to be discussing Ben Doak's now confirmed sale to Bournemouth. We're going to be discussing the latest in Alexander Isak, Marc, Guehi and Ibrahim Konate. And of course, lots of other bits and pieces that we hope will keep you right up to date with where we are with 2 weeks left in the summer window. So look, we've a load to get through tonight. Going to jump straight into the comments. I see Chad was in early doors. Appreciate you, Chad, as always, my man. He said, "Hi Craig, do you think Gravenberch and Guehi are the answers to tightening the defence? Or is it a bigger issue that we should be more concerned about?" It's a really interesting question, and, you know, to give this a little plug as well, Chad, we just recorded the next episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast where we discussed this very issue. Speaking with the two lads, and this week it was Connor and Chris, he was unavailable, we were talking about how far forward the fullbacks were, and that is one of the areas for concern here, Chad. You know, if you see the way we got caught out in the 2 goals, a couple of things stood out to me. Firstly, fullbacks very advanced, we know that, but also giving the ball away, and giving the ball away, not protecting it better in the final third is certainly something that Arna will be looking at as an area we can improve in. Ryan Gravenberch coming in will of course help out a lot as well. He will drop back in, split the centre backs and give us, I guess, a back three when we're in transition. So a couple of bits and pieces, but we do need to be better defensively as well. We can't just shrug our shoulders and say, you know, oh well, we'll be better next time. We need to work it out. We need to figure it out. And Arna's thought, certainly at least in his reaction to Jamie Carragher's thoughts on our defending, said that this is the way we are going to play. We are going to be that advanced. We are going to push forward that much. It's a risky philosophy, but if we look at Paris Saint-Germain as an example last year and the way that they play, it isn't a million miles removed from what Arna is trying to do. I guess, do we have the personnel to do it? I think yes, we do, but obviously having no Ryan in there, for me, Chad, was a big factor in why we looked so exposed. Hammer UK, how are we, dude? Welcome in. Lovely to have you with us. Thank you for being a member with us for 2 months as well. Jordan, how are we, sir? Evening all, just back from holiday. Missed you, Craig. Well, you know, I'm very jealous, mate. I hope you had a lovely holiday. Was hoping when I got back Isak would be done. The longer it goes, the more uncertain I get. Well, let's talk about Isak. Early doors here then. So this situation has taken a bit of an interesting twist, shall we say. Now, I'm not sure if everybody else is aware of this. I'm sure a lot of you probably are. But Ben Jacobs posted something very, very interesting a little bit earlier on this evening. And let me read out to you what he had to say. Yoane Wissa has unfollowed Brentford, changed his profile picture to black and removed all club photos from his Instagram account as he looks to leave the club. Vissa's move to Newcastle is currently being blocked by Brentford, as exclusively revealed earlier with Alex Crook. The 28-year-old is unhappy. Brentford won't now engage over a sale unless a 60, yes that's right, you heard me, £60 million valuation is met, despite informing Wissa a few weeks ago they would entertain a sale. Wissa was also told a year ago he could leave for £26 million after committing to last season following Ivan Toney's departure to Al Hilal. Brentford insist Dango Ouattara is a Brian Mbeumo replacement and not a Yoane Wissa one. So what do we think there, ladies and gents? Are we looking forward to the media and the public and all opposition club fans starting to have the same energy towards the Wissa situation that they've had with the Isak situation? Or will we all just admit that they're all hypocrites and they have a different energy for Liverpool? I don't remember so much vitriol around Gyökeres downing tools before he moved to Arsenal. That didn't get the same attention. Vissa's antics here, again, not going to probably garner the same attention in the media that we're getting around Isak. So I guess where we are with Isak is where we were, unsure. You know, Newcastle, and I said this yesterday, but again, just an opinion, I never thought that if they got in Wissa, that was going to be enough for them, because to me, he was the Callum Wilson replacement. But the part I find really interesting about this is the valuation. So let's remember here, they're asking for 60 million quid, Brentford. Now, go back to look at what was Newcastle's opening bid that was rejected. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was around £25 million. I think. Maybe 30, but it was in and around that. So now we're in a situation where somehow a player who was told he could leave for £26 million is now being priced at £60 million. So my question is, even if Newcastle relented and paid Brentford what they're asking for, 60 million quid, would that give them the PSR wiggle room or manoeuvrability to sell Isak without bringing in another forward? I don't know. So I'm confused on what's going on here. It seems like more barriers are coming in front of us in our pursuit of Isak. And this is what had me a little bit concerned, because I've no doubt Liverpool are ready. Liverpool have an offer prepared. I've no doubt it's a huge offer. I've no doubt the club want to sign Isak. But you get worried when you're at the behest of other clubs in their business. So I'm unsure what's going to happen. I think we get Isak. I hope we get Isak. But one thing came up on the podcast when we recorded it earlier, and it worried me. And it was Chris saying something along the lines of, I think Liverpool will wait for Isak like we did for Virgil van Dijk. And I understand where he's coming from, I do, and there's every chance we could do that. But we are up shit creek if we don't get in another forward. Let's make no mistake about that. We cannot go into the first half of the season or the whole season with just having Salah, Doak, Ekitike, Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, Chiesa at a push, and we still don't know for certain he's staying, and Rio Engamoa. That's not enough. That is nowhere near enough. So what happens? Truth is, I don't know, but I'm getting nervier as each day goes by. The centre-back situation I'm a little bit more relaxed about now, because we obviously got in Leone, so that is an extra body and we needed that. Yes, I want to see what happens with Marc Guehi and Ibrahim Konate, but this situation with Isak, I mean, the club must be fairly confident, because at what stage do you break glass in case of emergency and go after whatever plan B might look like? Because I haven't got a Scooby-Doo what plan B might look like. So a little bit nervy about it. Jordan. So a bit of a long-winded answer there for you, man. Welcome back from holidays. Right, Marcus said, I hate how much my mental health relies on 11 people on a field. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say my whole mental health rides on it, but certainly my mood for a few days anyway relies on Liverpool's results, and probably more on the performance actually than the result, if that makes sense. You know, if Liverpool lose two teams at their best and we lose it, it's tough, it is what it is. But if you feel like there were things in that we could have done better, yeah, not great. So will I make everybody feel better and make everything okay? Because I'm sure what I'm about to say to you will surely just put every worry you have aside. Dermot Gallagher said that it was a mistake made, but thankfully it didn't cost the game. Well, it didn't cost us the game, Mr. Dermot Gallagher, because our boys, you know, those Liverpool players, had the balls to go up the other end of the pitch and win it. Nothing to do with Michael Oliver absolutely shithousing another big decision and shrugging of the shoulders to say, well, it didn't impact the result. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. It could have impacted the result. That game could have been very straightforward had the VAR done his job, which is send the referee to the monitor. Now, what Dermot Gallagher did say, and it's probably the only excuse that makes any sense here, is that in his belief, he thinks that Michael Oliver may have neglected to look at the entire video and that he may have stopped when the ball hit the elbow, which wouldn't probably be a handball, in fairness. It came up off his body, hit his elbow. I could understand that, but it still doesn't excuse him for not doing his job yet again. And if he didn't watch the whole video, it doesn't really matter to me as a fan because it's still a failure. It's a failure of process. These processes that, remember, we were told were going to be cleaned up. And these processes that after the Luis Diaz fiasco, we were told wouldn't happen again. Or they would put steps for them not to happen again. So it's very easy for us to say we won the game and shrug our shoulders. But this is 13 minutes into a brand new season, week 1. And Michael Oliver's at it already. So, you know, we do need to talk about this properly because it's fucking shambolic. And apologies aren't worth the paper they're written on or the words that are said if it doesn't actually impact change. And there's no excuse for that not being given as a handball because it was a handball, plain and simple. David said, evening Craig and community. I also worry if Grav gets injured. I can understand why. I would dare to say, actually, do you know what? Let's ask the chat this because I think it's a really good point that a lot of people have an opinion on. So bear with me. Okay, so are you worried we're in trouble if Ryan Gravenberch gets an injury? Yes or no? Because this is a tricky one for me to answer. Because in one sense, I can understand that we have enough bodies in midfield, but we don't have enough specialists in that position. So what I was looking to hear, David, from Arne in pre-season or over the summer was that somebody, be that Stefan Bajcetic, Trey Leone, or Tyler Morton, somebody was going to be given the role of being the deputy in that position because I don't think that Endo can play it in the way that we want to play it. I've been at pains to say this many times. So I totally understand if people think we're in trouble because we probably would be screwed if we had an injury to Ryan Gravenberch. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, you could say the same for Manchester City and Rodri. You could say the same for other clubs with their key holding midfielders, but we should be looking to have another body in there. If nothing else, for rotation, same as every other area of the pitch, that Arne can put somebody in there to play the role. And yes, it might not be up to the very same standards that Ryan Gravenberch can play it, but at least rhythmically, or the way that we play, it wouldn't change things too much. And yeah, so it's a very fair point, and I think it'll be interesting to see what the chat react to it with the poll. Smokey said, Craig, what about if we play Newcastle for Isak, winner keeps them? No, I'm not having that as well, mate, because they'll find a way to screw us with VAR somehow. So, no, if I can referee the match, deal. But if I can't referee, or at least if I'm not on VAR, no deal. Craig, what are your thoughts on, I don't know who this guy is, you're saying as a replacement for Salah. I haven't heard of that name before, mate, you know, so apologies, I have no idea who you're talking about. Grav's athleticism and his motor power, his physical gifts made him unique in midfield, similar to Fabinho. Yeah, we might not be able to get an out-and-out similar footballer, but I just want to hear who the deputy is. So even if the manager turns around and says, right, it is Trey Leone or it is Stefan Bajcetic, that would be enough for me to at least be at ease with it. But again, it'll be interesting to see if he says something like that, if he backs that up with team selections. You know, because I've heard that Rio Ngamoa is going to come in and take the Diaz place in the squad, but I'm still not feeling that based off the last couple of weeks and Arne's substitutions that he made when we needed to shake things up. Francis said, Jones is the man who has it to cover DCM. Not for me. Jones is a well-rounded midfield player that can do a good few things. I just don't see him as the number 6. Maybe Arne does, maybe you're right, but I would dare to say if he did really see Jones in that position, then we would have seen Curtis Jones playing against Bournemouth on Friday night when we didn't have Ryan Gravenberch, but he went correctly, in my opinion, for Alexis McAllister. So yeah, I think that maybe puts to bed the whole idea of Arna thinking Jones is the guy in the 6 if Ryan isn't there, because he didn't pick him. Joseph said, the way PSG play, their fullbacks are similar to us. 100%. And Arna was kind of at pains last season to tell us about his admiration for Paris Saint-Germain. And yeah, they do, as you said, mate. Their wide players, their fullback / wing backs are, look at Hakimi's wing position. It's really advanced. So understand that, but you do still need the shield in there in Gravenberch, because Canade was left to cover a lot of ground. DJ said, missing out on Isak and Guehi means a title challenge and domestic trophy is a successful season. Won't have the depth to compete in the Prem and the Champions League. So we made our predictions on the podcast, and I don't want to give them all away, but I had us not winning the league this year. I don't know why, my gut feeling is we win the Champions League and finish second in the league. But if we don't get... See, Guehi, I understand if we had a Canada extension. Now, I'd love a world where we bring Marc Guehi in and sign Canada as well, and we have both as options. That would be incredible. But I just don't see it as a realistic one at the minute, DJ. So I'm relaxed on the centre-back as long as we get a confirmed resolution that Canada signed an extension and we know what the future is there, or that Marc Guehi gets brought in. The striker one is the one that I think is somewhat out of our control at the minute, and hence the reason I'm feeling a bit more nervy about that. A week ago, I was saying we need to get in a centre-back, and we did. We brought in Giovanni Leone, and that was very welcome anyway from me. But yeah, still have business to do and 2 weeks to do it. The Chosen One said, after the Newcastle game, we will only have 6 days left to get Isak and Guehi. We won't have time. This week is huge. Clock's definitely ticking. Clock is definitely ticking, my friend. Like you said, 6 days left. Now, I think we can get the Marc Guehi one done this week if we wanted to. I do think that we could make that move along. Because think about it this way, right? Crystal Palace will also have to get a centre-back. So if they sell us Marc Guehi, they need time to go into the market as well to do that. So I do think that situation we can kick along a little bit quicker. But I've been thinking about what is actually going to happen there. Like, I can't be in my own and thinking that some of the media coverage and the briefings around the Marc Guehi situation, I find a little bit confusing, right? So we had Steve Parish. I think he was speaking with Cave Solacol when they were at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. I think it was that time where he said basically a club like Crystal Palace can't afford to let a player like Marc Guehi walk out the door for free. Now here we are a week or so later, and a lot of the coverage has been, well, Steve Parish would rather let him go for free than take 5 or 10 million quid less than he wants because Crystal Palace can't be seen to be weak. I don't buy it. I don't. It doesn't make any sense, because let's play out this scenario. Steve Parish says Crystal Palace can't be weak. We must be seen to be strong in the market. I'm keeping Marc Guehi for the season. Cool. Season ends, and what happens? Marc Guehi walks out the door for free, and you, as the chairman, still have to go to the board and find 20, 25, 30, 35 million pound to replace him. Why would you intentionally have a 70 million pound swing negatively on your books as a chairman? It doesn't make any sense to me, and I can't for the life of me see why anybody's given this any airtime. Steve Parish has to sell Marc Guehi. It is as simple as that. And if Marc Guehi has made it known that Liverpool are where he wants to go, and Liverpool are in conversations as per Sammy Mockbell and a few others today, there's only one way that can end up, and that is with Liverpool getting him for a price that Steve Parish probably isn't overly happy with, but a price that is reflected by the situation we're in. Don't see a world where he lets him go for free, because, you know, if we were talking about Canada here as an example, you could say to me, hang on, Craig, I think that if we kept Canada for the year, that might be the difference between us winning the Champions League, qualifying for the Champions League, or getting an extra trophy. That in itself might be worth the money. And I'd say, fair enough. But you can't make that argument with Crystal Palace. They're not going to get relegated. So is keeping Marc Guehi really going to be the difference of 30, 35 million quid for them? I just can't see it. So again, all signs point to him going if Liverpool really come to the table with a bid. That's the way I see it anyway. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Would you renew Endo's contract? I don't know off the top of my head how long Endo has left. Was it a 3-4 year deal he signed when he came in? Would I renew it? No, I wouldn't. Don't need to. That's, let's be honest, he's not going to be playing for us 35, 36, 37, so no, I wouldn't. Simon said, Craig, the only reason Parish would do that would be if he felt Guehi guarantees the Conference League and therefore another year in Europe. Again, yeah, it's certainly a thought process, but it's a risky one. Again, you're talking a 70 million quid swing. So if you don't win the Conference League, has it paid off? I mean, I don't know what the prize money is for winning the Conference League. I think I seen somebody say before it was £38 million, £40 million, something like that for winning the Conference League. So again, it's a big risk. John, how are we, sir? Said, Craig, you've said all along that Isak is 99%, and I said you were leading people up the garden path for sticks. Start using reputable sources. So, John, my friend, I never once, ever said what you said I've said. So, I'm not leading anybody up the garden path, and I know you're trying to bait me, but it is an interesting point, so I'm going to just make it anyway. I have said, and you can go and watch any video you want, I have said every single time that it is all dependent on Newcastle finding a replacement. And that is not even up for debate. So I don't have better sources, worse sources. I report what the journalists write. That is the whole context of this show. If some people like yourself, mate, are either just trying to undermine me or you're too stupid to understand the difference, that's not on me, dude. I know what I've said. And I've said over and over again that 99.99, that part is correct, but you're leaving out the big caveat, which is if Newcastle sign a replacement. So you're not fooling anybody, John. Just say you don't like me and you want to come in to try and undermine the channel, because that's all you're doing, dickhead. And that's it. It's as simple as that. And I know the chat will back me up on this, and you can pull any clip you want on it. Every single one of those clips will say exactly what I've said it said. Every single one of them. Because I know what I've said. I know what I've read. I know who I've spoken to. So, respectfully, mate, I'm going to trust me on this one. Because I know you're full of shit. Right, Stargirl said, Gravenberch was brilliant last season, but towards the end of the season, he looked tired. If we don't get Isak, you could use money for a DM and a forward. He definitely looked tired. Defo looked tired, no denying that. It doesn't wash for me if we don't get a forward, Stargirl, at this point, because we've left ourselves short now. Today, the club confirmed the sale of Ben Doak, and let's talk a little bit about this. Liverpool confirmed the sale, £25 million of Ben Doak to Bournemouth. It does include a buyback option for Liverpool. He joined us from Celtic in 2022 for 600 grand. So in that time, with a handful of appearances and a few loans, Liverpool have now got £25 million for Ben Doak. So good business, but it's also another option for Arna that has been removed. Speaking after his move to Bournemouth, Ben Doak said this: I'm buzzing to be here. Feel like it's the right time for me, and it's a great opportunity to play regular football at the highest level. It feels like the perfect fit. The team play very nice football. It's fast and it really suits my game. So I felt like I couldn't say no for the chance to come and play here. So sincerely wish Ben Doak the very best on his move. And if we do trigger that release clause in the future, it'll be because, he's done something really good and Liverpool see a reason to do it. So, yeah, interesting one. Donald said, yes, John, go jump. I know, he's full of it. Because I know what I've said, like I've said over and over again. John's one of these idiots that are always in my comments that just wants to try and make out like I'm some type of fraud. But I keep reiterating, I'm not a journalist. I've never claimed to be a journalist. And I don't say sources, mate. I've said all along, I read out what the journalists write. So if you've got to be in your bonnet, I don't need to do anything for clicks, mate. I'm already the most watched Liverpool fan on the planet. The most watched Liverpool channel on the planet. I know what I'm doing. I'm pretty fucking good at it. So, again, I'm not here to put up with idiots. And I'm not going to. Simple as that. But thanks for the money. I appreciate the money, mate. I will promise you, I'll use it on a month's Pornhub premium subscription, John. Just for you. Nathan said, hey Craig, if we don't get Isak, would we get another striker or would it just wait until January? So Chris seemed to think we'd wait when we discussed this on the podcast earlier on. I don't think we can wait. I really don't think we can. You know, for me as a fan, putting aside all the emotion and everything else around the situation, I just can't see a world where we've enough bodies to go into the season without having another attacking option, a good, top-notch attacking option. If we don't get Isak, who would you want? Oh, Kelsey, at this point, I don't see an option. At this point, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't see an option. I don't see somebody out there who we could get and we would go, yeah. I mean, people will say Rodrigo, and I understand that. He's certainly of the caliber we'd be talking about, but it would be a very different player, wouldn't it, to a centre forward? And if we're talking only centre forwards, unless you could somehow convince Julian Alvarez to change his mind about coming back to the UK, I can't think of one. Not one that I'd be happy with anyway. Berto said, John paying to look like a knob. Don't be like John. I swear to God, lads, it has to be some type of sexual gratification at this point. It's the only way I can think of that somebody pays money and knows I'm going to belittle them. It has to be some type of sexual gratification or something. And I'm not down for it, John. I'm just not, mate. I'm kinky enough, but, I draw the line somewhere. Merlin said, Voltmade now available for Newcastle. Bayern refused the release clause. That's mad. That situation's been going on ages for Bayern. Remember the under-21 Euros, the whole Nick Voltmade situation. And look, I'm going to be honest about this. Voltmade to Isak is a massive downgrade. Let's be honest. It is. Nick Voltmade certainly has a bright future in the game, and you don't get top clubs like Bayern after if you've not got something about you. But we're talking about somebody to come for the here and now. And in my opinion, there's no way Nick Voltmade is going to come in and score 25 or 30 goals right now in a season, which is the type of caliber we're talking about with Isak. So, big downgrade for me. That's what I'm saying. It feels like it's Isak or we're screwed at this point, unless there's a master plan. And there has to be a plan, because they do have to say, we need another body. So maybe you could say, push for Rodrigo and then go after Isak in the future. But for me, as one of our very first comments of the night from this gentleman, DJ, said missing out on Isak and Guehi certainly alters my perception of what's likely this season. Just a bit of a programming now for everybody in the chat there that is trying to bait me. I'm in too good of a mood today. Some good shit happened behind the scenes in my private life, mate. Call me a clickbait and whatever you want in the comments. Do what you want, mate. It isn't going to wipe the smile off my face today. I am winning here. I am winning in life. And I am winning. And you sad little fuckers are just making my day. So please, carry on. Call me whatever you want. You're here. You're watching. You're driving the algorithm in my favour. Just know this as you go to bed. I'm winning. I will always win. It's beautiful. I love it. Evening, Craig. Isak done after the Newcastle game. That's seemingly the consensus to a lot of people. Connor reckons the same. That it's not going to happen before the before the Newcastle game. I have to say, I don't get that. I don't get, how, what's the word I'm looking for here? How tin pot would you have to be for Newcastle if that's the only barrier? We can't sell them before we play, or we can't start the conversations before we play. To me, it just feels like a poor PR exercise. If you're going to sell them, have the conversation. If you're not going to sell them, don't have the conversation. But I don't know, it just feels a bit weird to me, this whole thing about we can't sell them before we play them. Why? The fans are already pissed off. The fans are already hating them. I don't see what the difference of that game is going to do. It's already going to be a febrile atmosphere. It's already going to be very difficult up there. I don't think that's going to change no matter what happens between now and then for the Isak situation. There's a comment that said, still worried about playing your new signings at James's Park? Yes. I explained my decision making on that yesterday. I don't feel it's that divisive a situation. Comes down to just me wanting some experience on the park. It's got nothing to do with the quality of the lads I was speaking about, and in the context of what you're saying, for people who maybe don't know, I said I would probably lean towards Andy Robertson to start the game against Newcastle, and I would question whether I'd go for Wirtz or not. Nothing to do with the talent of either, but it's to do with the environment we're going into and the experience of these febrile atmospheres and a big game under the lights. And I would argue Andy Robertson maybe wouldn't be as rash in some of the early challenges that we've seen from Kirkes. And with Florian, it's kind of protecting him physically somewhat as well, and maybe bringing him on when legs are tiring a little bit later. So that was my thought process behind it, but it was, I thought, a fairly easily explained point. You don't have to agree with it, like I said, but if I was the coach, it'd certainly be something that would be in my mind. Conference prize money is below 20 million. Is that including the TV money and stuff, mate? You know, as you go through the competition. But yeah, either way, so say even all in, if we're being generous here and we're going 40 million, the real Johnny Sins, it's still not enough, is it, to justify keeping Marc Guehi on the off chance that you go and win it? And by the way, for what it's worth as well, we did a vote on this yesterday, and I am very much in the minority, especially on the Florian Wirtz thing. I asked people what they would do with Wirtz, and I think, if I remember correctly, it was nearly 70%. It was a high amount anyway. Said that they would they carry on and play Florian Wirtz, so no issue with that either. This is, you know, the fun of what we do is we all have an opinion, and as long as people express those opinions in a jovial, friendly manner when we talk, all good. So yeah, for me, that would be my thought process, but I fully understand maybe why others would think differently. John Henry said, would you swap Milos and Frimpong for Nuno Mendes? No. Never swap two good players for a very good player. But I think Milos, in particular, with the age he is, I can only see good things in his future. And the more he works with Arne and the more a system he gets used to, and you know, we get some of the excitement out, because you could see that the first game there at Anfield under the lights, he just wanted to impress. He just seemed a little bit too eager, a little bit too keen, but certainly not lacking in effort or footballing ability. So now I'd be more than happy to keep the two lads we have. D said, I agree. I'd start Joe right back and Curtis, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai in midfield for physicality. Did you see Grav and his partner had their baby? Yes, we'd seen that one, and congratulations to both of them. Always good to get some good news like that. What else we got? Right, bear with me. Let's check in on the poll, actually. So we'd asked you, are you worried we're in trouble if Ryan Gravenberch picks up an injury? I think I can call it here, because 2,300 votes is 82% say yes, we probably would be short if Ryan picked up an injury. Right, let's get back into the news before I dip back into some super chats. And I want to take you back to this from Mike Keegan of the Daily Mail. So Mike Keegan said Liverpool are targeting a move for Brentford defender Nathan Collins. Now, look, as an Irish man, I'd be all over that. But I don't think it's feasible. You know, so let's just look at what they're asking for Visa right now in a situation of 60 million for a last minute deal. Can you imagine what they'd ask for their captain, who has 4 years remaining on his contract, and a 2-year option for the club to extend in that as well? I just can't see a world where that is a feasible transfer at a number that makes any sense. So I can't see it happening, as much as I do like Nathan Collins, and I do think he's a very good player. Let's have a little laugh at Ruben Amorim for a minute, because, you know, I don't want people to think I'm going too soft on United in my old age, but Ruben Amorim has lost 15 of his 28 Premier League matches in charge of Manchester United. Let that sit. 28 matches as the manager of Manchester United, and he has lost over half of them. Lost. Not won, lost. 15 of 28. He has 7 wins in 28 games in the Premier League. 7 wins. That is shocking. 6 draws and 15 losses. But yeah, you know, they're back. Now, they will have a better season this year than last year, but that is shocking. Shocking statistics for a manager of Manchester United. See, I cannot... I can't advise on this other than seek professional help. And I mean that absolutely sincerely. I'm not qualified to give you advice on this. I wouldn't dare deal with such a sensitive topic without recommending you speak to a professional. So it's what I would do in your situation. It's what I would advise my friends and family to do. Always pick up a phone and reach out to a professional, because this is a serious situation that I can't help you with. I can send you love and we can, you know, hope you feel better soon. But ultimately, it's not a situation I'm qualified to discuss. So I would respectfully say, you know, speak to a mental health professional, a GP. I don't know if you're in school, college, or at work, but speak to a friend and start the process, because it is important for your own well-being. Isak won't play. Why keep him? Let him go. Move on, Newcastle. Look, as a Liverpool fan, yeah, that's what I'd like to see as well. But there have been situations, playing devil's advocate here, there have been situations where players have found a way back before. And look, we always say this, as football fans, we're hypocrites, right? We are. We might hate a player in 1 minute, and then if they come back in and start banging in goals and you're going up the league table, hostilities are minimised for a while. So there is a way in a world where this could come back, but is it best serving of the whole vibe around the club to have this situation? Because it's constantly going to be talked about if he stays, you know? And I don't see that spoken about much in the media. If Isak stays, it's going to happen every week. You're going to see stories in the newspaper about him January. You're going to see stories about the summer. You're going to see stories about a future move. He doesn't want to be there. And the whole thing just still has this big shadow over Newcastle season. So I think sell. If you have... Sell sorts the situation. I know you might say, well, yes, of course it does, Craig, but it doesn't get them a striker. Well, now they'd have time to do that. So, up to them. Zoidberg said, howdy, Craig. In an ironical twist, I'm here drinking with the Red Sox FSG outers. As predicted, despite Wirtz, they will leave us weaker than before. We're definitely at... Harvey agrees with you, by the way. We're definitely at the point where... If you look at the numbers, and I have a rough list of potential ins and outgoings, so bear with me. Where's the list? There we go. So, incomings, let's just push Georgie aside, because that was at least agreed last year. So, we've brought in Ekitike, Frimpong, Kirkes, Wirtz, and Leone. So, we've brought in 5. Now, we obviously lost Diogo tragically. We have sold... I don't even want to say Kelleher here, because that just, again, cancels out the Georgia one. But that's one out. Kwanzaa's another one out. Diaz, Darwin, Doak. Diogo, obviously, tragically. Elliott could be gone. And Costas could be gone. So we could be moving 8 bodies out. And we've got 5 in so far. Hardly beefing up the overall squad. Even if the players we brought in are really, really good. Still feels like we got to make this work by getting the last 2 in minimum. Now, I guess, here's a question. 2 weeks left in the window. I'm going to ask again, how many signings do you think we need? So... I'll give you every option I can think of there. Right. So, how many more transfers do you think, without going into positions, Liverpool need before the window ends? 1, 2, 3, or more than 3? And to get back to the Red Sox part of your question, Zoidberg, I've never had a problem with the net spend, let's say, being 200 million. That's still a good window, and I've no problem with us getting good money to recoup in for players who move on. But we've always said we've got to look at it at the end of the window and see, do we address every deficiency that we have in the squad? And do we feel that we've improved the club sufficiently to compete and look to win every competition? So far, no, is the answer. We've done some brilliant business individually, bringing in Wirtz, bringing in Frimpong, Kirkes. Ugo Ekitike looks absolutely top-notch. But we ain't done yet. And I'm not going to lie, it irks me a little bit that we're even in this position with 2 weeks to go, because it doesn't look like the greatest of planning. Anybody you bring in now, still going to need time to bed in, still going to need time to get up to speed with what the manager wants. And we're inside the season now. The season's underway. So, yeah, certainly feels to me like the club are willing to take a little bit of short-term pain if they get Isak. And by short-term, I mean now the season started. Ideally, we would have had the forward in. But if it ends up on the 1st of September with Alexander Isak being a Liverpool player, I think we'll probably all feel it was a sacrifice or a frustration worth happening. The centre-back one, I'm a little bit calmer on because we did bring in Giovanni Leone. But I still would like clarity on Canade's future and whether or not we're going to go for Marc. Where were we at? Peter. Oh, this is a little bit different from the trolling comments earlier on from somebody else, mate. Craig, I just want to say I love you. Thank you. Thank you for being you, and thank you for keeping us up to date. Look, it's a pleasure. Like I said, a huge excitement for me every night to come on here and chat with you all. I do. It depends what mood I come into, how I deal with trolls. Today, as I said, I'm flying. Great personal news behind the scenes. Yeah, just really happy today. So none of these arseholes are getting in my head. But if they want to pay money to abuse me, so be it. You know, I'll always do my best to read out a super chat, even if it's somebody being a bit of an asshole. But yourself, Peter, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure. And I really appreciate your support, sir. Thank you. Christian said, did daughter find the first job? Juggernaut keeps rolling. No, not yet, but promising lead on that one. That wasn't the situation. I mean, I can tell you the situation today if you'd like. So, business company doing well, and now Sabrina is an employee of our business, which is incredible because she's always worked her ass off for the channel behind the scenes, whether it's running around, whether it's getting stuff posted out, whether it's doing some merch stuff, whether it's rushing to the accountant or whatever it might be. She's always been part of the team, and now she's officially an employee as of today, which makes me very proud, very happy, and yeah, just good. I'm happy on that one. But on the other thing, there's a good lead. She's an interview tomorrow, and we hope it ends in a positive. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. Jeff said, Craig, love you and your family. You Irish Scouser. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Right, let's keep going. Carl said, I don't know where that air came from there, Carl. At least Isak will be well rested if he comes. True that, mate. True that. I can't lie, Carl. Even just thinking about Isak to complete this window, it's filth in a good way. Isak, Ekitike, Salah, Gakpo, Rio Ngamoa, and maybe Federico as our attacking options. That's an attack I can get behind, mate. Now, what do you guys think happens with Federico? Because again, like I said yesterday, there's some mixed messaging on whether he stays or not. I know we all want him to stay. I think Liverpool fans unanimously want to see more of Federico. But I'm unsure still. it's all well and good hearing that the club aren't going to sell him because they want an extra body, but an extra body isn't good enough if he doesn't get played. So if he does stay, he surely has to get game time. And I mean proper game time, not this 88th minute nonsense. You got to utilise him across the attack, whether it's as a rotation for Mo, whether it's cover for Mo at the AFCON, whether it's a roll through the middle if needs be to give somebody a rest. We need to properly utilise him if he stays and not have a situation like last year. Rain said, weird shout, but if we don't get Isak, take Gordon. That would be hilarious, and I rate him. Glad to see you in a good mood. Can you imagine that? The fume. Actually, could you imagine what the price would be if we went, right, actually, fair cop, you're not going to sell us Isak, but how about Anthony? What's the price on Mr. Gordon? Well, firstly, let me say this categorically. Him and his 80s aerobic instructor headband, no, not having it. Not having that. So that needs to be gotten rid of before it's even a conversation. But yeah, I can't see it happening because I think the same still applies, right? If they don't sell Isak, they're still going to leave themselves short of a forward if they sell Gordon. So I still don't think it's a starter, but the fume would be funny. Chirpy said, Gordon, I don't feel is good enough for us. I think you're not on your own there. I think a lot of people wouldn't be the biggest of Anthony Gordon fans, but for me, it's very telling, right? We want Isak, so therefore Arna feels we still need a number 9. That's the way I look at this. So I don't know if a pivot will happen. I think it's probably more likely we get in a wide player and go back for Isak in the future, but I'd be intrigued to see what type of level of spending. Like, here's my guess at what would happen. If Isak, for whatever reason, doesn't happen between now, despite your man John earlier on promising us all it was 99% done. John, shame on you, mate. You need better sources. Besides John shitting the bed like that and telling us all it was done, I don't see a world where there's another person good enough. So for me, my best guess would be if it didn't work out between now and January. I agree with Chris that we'd revisit it, but I would say we'd go for somebody like Malik Fofana and sit tight for a little while. I see some shouts in the chat for the likes of Antoine Semenyo. Again, new deal, just signed at Bournemouth, and it would be a very, 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 very difficult deal to get him out of there when they've just lost Utara and brought in another player. So, yeah, I think for him, Malik Fofana would make more sense, and then go back for Isak whenever it might be. Adam said he stays till at least January. So in the January thing, right, it is still a very tricky situation because what if Newcastle are doing horrendously bad between now and January, or they're not occupying the European places that would have wanted to? I still struggle to see a world where it gets sorted in January, in a World Cup year in particular, because let's say Newcastle want to bring in a replacement. Is that replacement going to be of the calibre of an international footballer who wants to move mid-season? There are other factors that I think makes this a little bit trickier than saying, let's go back in January. My best guess would be, it would be a year, a season, before we go back in for Isak at that point. I think it would be after the World Cup, but just my best guess at it. What is your evaluation of Marc Guehi? I think, don't let Richard Hughes for this, 35, 40 million quid, I've no problem with. You know, I understand Liverpool wanting to get him cheap, but, you know, we also have to look at our own hypocrisy in here. If we were to sell Canade at the minute, we know Liverpool would be looking for upwards of 40 million quid for him. And Canade doesn't come as the homegrown quota player, as well as being a good, great young centre-back with, you know, a future ahead of him. So I find it mad that we demand top dollar, but wouldn't want to pay for somebody that would probably have the premium on them anyway in Marc Guehi as a homegrown player. So if you got Marc Guehi for 35 million quid, I would say the best way to think about it is to put his current contract situation in Palace out of your mind and ask, is 35 million quid for Marc a bargain? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. You know, Newcastle were willing to pay 65 million quid from a year ago. He's only gotten better over that year. So for me, I'd just say go get it done. And also, it would remove the risk around Canade. Because if Canade doesn't sign by the time the window shuts, or at any point soon, because the window, I guess, is irrelevant to him signing, but if Canade hasn't got an agreement in place, at least bringing in Marc and controlling that situation gives us clarity on the future. You know, he's here for here and now, and then you've got more time and wiggle room to say to Canade, look, clock's ticking, sign, or we're going to look to sell you before this window shuts. So either way, whatever way I dress it up in my mind, signing Marc makes sense. But, you know, I'm not at Liverpool and I'm not involved in these conversations, and I'm sure they have their own plan. John, how are we, sir? Said, hey, Craig, glad things are well. Was there a vice captain announced? I missed it if it was. I don't think there was, John. Certainly I missed it as well, if there was, dude, and I don't think there was. Yeah, good point. I mean, when is the secrecy going to stop? I didn't hear one. What's this? Okay, the Newcastle officials have just been confirmed. Thank you, Marc, for sending this on to me. So it looks like Simon Hooper is the referee that's going to be in charge unless something's changed. So Simon Hooper, who's the VAR official? Let me have a look. John Brooks. I mean, it's better than Michael Oliver. So let's wait and see, Marc, what happens. So a few people shouting about Mo in the chat as a potential vice captain. I've certainly not seen anything myself to confirm it, but you know, Salah would make sense. I would totally get that. Right, where are we at? So Stevie Boy said, who replaces Chiesa if he leaves? It's got to be Fofana. It has to be. Surely a no-brainer that. Yeah, for me it's Malik Fofana, Stevie Boy, if Chiesa leaves. And I'm also of the mindset that if he does leave, we absolutely have to have somebody ready to come in. So I'm going to say Fofana. Seems the most likely to me, and he's still available, and he's still at Lyon. So yeah, I'm going to say him. Ian Hunter said, so impressed with Hugo, I'd rather not go Isak and backup striker. Instead, similar to Jota, then spend for CDM. So my best guess, Ian, is that when we sign Isak, you know, being optimistic, Hugo plays on the left. And also, listening to what Aaron is saying, he doesn't feel yet Hugo's ready for a full 90. So you might see him going off for a while at 60, 65. But I think if Isak came in, I would look at Hugo then as a multifunctional forward that, yes, can play centrally, but can also play off the left and potentially off the right. So it gives us more options. That's the way I think about it anyway, mate. So yeah, that's where my head's at. CDM, I get it, but I've just seen nothing to suggest we're going to bring one in. Christopher, how are we, sir? Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Said, hey, Craig, will 3-5-2 suit if Isak joins and Salah VVD leave? 3 centre-backs cover VVD's loss and full-backs pushing him. Grav progresses the ball but stays deep. And the third middle centre-back, Szoboszlai fits in the 11. So for me, if you're talking about a system that has 3-5-2 or anything that starts with 3 at the back, I want 6 centre-backs at the club. 1 to cover every position. 5 in a youngster. I think you're probably still pushing it. So I don't see a world with what we have now that we can play that system and rotate and have enough bodies to do it. So for that reason and the fact that we've not really seen, at least from the off, that's a system that Arne wants to play. Now, in possession, like many have said before, it is at times we sit to a back 3 when the centre-backs split, the 2 full-backs or wing-backs go forward, and the defensive midfielder, Gravenberch, drops back in to split the centre-backs, but that's only in transition. So Don't know. I don't know if Arne thinks it's necessary to tweak the system to do that when he can kind of do it to some extent in attack. I guess the problem there comes though if you're caught out of possession, like we've seen. Give Chiesa the number 9 shirt. No. Sorry, that's the number 9 shirt at Liverpool has to be for a potential hero or a hero. And Chiesa, with all due respect, if he stays, is never going to be, I don't think, in anybody's strongest 11 if you pick a Liverpool attack. So for that reason, I would say no to giving him the number 9, because number 9, in my opinion, should be a bona fide every week starter. So yeah, for me, I would pass and give him the 9. This one from the real Johnny Sins said, pray Rodrigo stays at Real Madrid. City will be scary with him. It'll be interesting to see what does happen there. He was included in Madrid squad for tonight's game. Or is it tomorrow night they kick off, actually? Sorry, I think it's tomorrow night. Yeah, I don't know. Mate, don't know where he ends up, but I'd be astonished if it's at Liverpool. I really, really would. Right, so we asked, how many signings do you think we need as things currently sit? We've said 1, 2, 3, or more than 3. So if you can, please do have a vote on that one. Stargirl said, it's weird that we don't have lots of number 9s available to buy compared to previous years. It was much easier to find forwards in the past. So I think that comment, again, needs a bit more context to it, because what we're supposed to be shopping for this window is the bona fide stars. They bring us in and prove the team right now players. And if you use that as the prerequisite to start this conversation, I think that group of forwards gets even smaller and smaller. And with what's in the world now that I know of, I only feel there are 2 players, Alvarez and Isak. That's it. And one of them seems like mission impossible, and the other one is on a bit of a knife edge at the minute, depending on what happens with Newcastle. So certainly slim pickings. You know, we've sat back and we've allowed others to go into the market and get the centre forwards. Now, I'm not saying they would have been any of our choices, Gyökeres, Šeško, but at least it is options being removed from the market that we can't explore. Wissa is nowhere near good enough to play for Liverpool, so I don't want that as a conversation. Obviously, Nicholas Jackson should come nowhere near Liverpool. So who is it? If it isn't Isak, yeah, it's definitely slim pickings. Matt said Newcastle will never sell Isak before we play them Monday. See, we've talked about this, and I'll read the rest of your comment before I finish. I reckon it happens a week from next Wednesday. I don't buy into that. That feels tin pot to me. That you're so butthurt and you're so sensitive about potentially upsetting the fan base more. I would argue that if you agree to sell him this week, the stadium's going to be even more vociferous and even more behind Newcastle players, because now they definitely will feel like it's us against the world and the big bad Liverpool are coming to town, and you know, let's teach them and Isak a lesson. So it just feels very tin pot to me that we're all agreeing that, oh, poor little Newcastle fans, and Newcastle are so butthurt that they couldn't possibly sell. Common sense should dictate what happens, and they need time to spend that money as well. You know, Newcastle fans won't want this to be a situation of they get 2 forwards in, let's say, and then the window's over for them and they don't have enough time or money to get other people because they waited so long to get the Isak money, and the Isak money comes in, they can't spend it. That won't be great for them either. Everton conceded 84th minute, 1-0. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. Oh well. I probably won't sleep well tonight now, worrying about poor old Everton. Latif said, Guehi issue is sell-on percentage. Chelsea can pay less. Yeah, Chelsea have I think it's 20%, Latif, if my memory's right. But the really interesting part here comes from the fact that he wants to play for Liverpool. So, you know, whatever way you dress it up, Crystal Palace is still going to lose that 20%. whether he goes to Chelsea for 20% less or whether he goes to us and they pay the 20%. It doesn't make any difference. Crystal Palace still aren't getting that 20%. So the player wants to come to Liverpool. That much we know from the reporting around it. What was this one? So I want to read something out from Yandal Thomasson, former Swedish playing legend and now Swedish manager. And he's been speaking about the very one-sided narrative around the Alexander Isak situation, and something that I've spoken about a few times as well. I very much think this has been one-sided in the media because we haven't heard from Isak, but this is what his international manager, had to say. First of all, Alex is an extremely professional player, a fantastic character and personality. I've spoken to Alex a lot during this period. Situations like this are quite complex. These are extremely complex environments that the players operate in. I'm sure it'll work out in the end, but you have to know the whole picture before you draw conclusions. That's always a good tip. I don't think we know the full story. I don't know the whole picture either. It's quite normal because there's a lot of politics in the football club. But one thing is for sure, Alex is a great guy, very professional. We should all be very careful about drawing conclusions because we don't know the bigger picture. Which we don't. We know what Newcastle have put out there. We know what Newcastle fans feel. We know what a lot of the media feel, but we haven't heard from Isak. We've seen pieces from Craig Houlden and Keith Downey and others who spoke about broken promises that Isak feels that haven't been fulfilled. But I look forward to turning on Sky Sports News tonight and everybody to be up in arms about Wissa, blacking out his profile picture on social media and, kicking up a fuss over the move. Because, of course, they'll all be going in on him, right? Because they wouldn't be hypocrites, would they? Let's wait and see. I think we will see them massively pushing that hypocrisy button, much like Newcastle fans are hypocrites. And that isn't a dig at Newcastle fans, because I'm breaking news here, Newcastle fans. I'm a hypocrite, but I'm aware of being a hypocrite. We as football fans should embrace our hypocrisy. So as much as you're kicking up and cry arsing about Newcastle and the situation with Isak, I don't remember the condemnation for Gyökeres. I don't remember the condemnation for Wissa in the public sphere. So why is it that Isak gets this special attention? I know the answer, because Liverpool are involved. And anybody that doesn't like Liverpool wants to take cheap shots. Simple as that in my eyes. That's the way I see it. And I think, again, it's proved to be the case in the media with a lot of the coverage. Very, 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 very hypocritical. Cryptical said, need Guehi, VVD and Canade looking slack recently, need the competition. Also, Alisson for vice captain. Mo is too quiet and goes missing too often recently, in my opinion. So, there's one thing I don't think we've really addressed properly, to be fair to Canade, in the situation with his performances. And that's the Jota situation. We've made allowances mentally for everybody in the team, and rightly so. We've spoken about Mohamed Salah and the impact it clearly has taken on him, as was seen visually with his emotional release after the game. But we need to give the same benefit of the doubt to Canade as well. So we don't know what's causing his form to be shaky. And I agree, his form is absolutely shaky. But would signing a new contract change that? I hope so. But also, like we said, we need to make allowances for these guys as a unit and as individuals, because they lost a brother, a teammate and a friend. So you've got to keep that in mind as well. Just putting it out there, just to give some balance to our conversations about it, because, he hasn't been good enough. You're right. There's no arguing Canade's form has been a bit all over the place, but is it to do with the uncertainty over his contract? Is it to do with the new fullbacks? Is it to do with Jota? Or is it a little bit of everything? It's probably a little bit of everything. What was the other part? Alisson for vice captain. So I don't like a captain or a vice captain or whatever being too far forward or in goal. I want somebody somewhere around the middle of the park. So for me, Alexis McAllister would be a good show. Szoboszlai be a good show. Just a personal preference is I don't like a captain on the pitch being too far forward or the goalkeeper. Just my preference on it. Dougleash, thank you, mate, for your super chat. Very kind. Said, honestly, prior to this window, I would have questioned what was going on. Now, though, I trust we have a plan. It's encouraging to me that we're not being linked with other attackers. Feel like we get Isak. Totally appreciate that perspective. And like yourself, mate, before this window, I would have had many questions about what's going on. But a lot of those have been fairly answered with the calibre of the player and the swiftness at which we moved. And like your good self, I can't help but feel they're confident behind the scenes of Isak for the very reasons you've laid out. So yeah, I agree, mate, and I think it's a very fair point. Thank you. Craig, what microphone do you use? So for this one, Stargirl, I use, what is it again? A Shure, I can't remember the Shure, is it NT-USB? I think that's the one. No, it was a Rode NT-USB. This is a Shure M1. That was it, a Shure M1. So it's a microphone that you can have an XLR connection into it, or you can have a USB connection. So you can either put it into a mixer if you want to mess around with your audio settings, or you can just plug it straight in as a plug and play into your computer and do it that way. That's what appealed to me about it, because sometimes, occasionally I do stuff that isn't here. And this is a process for me to get this microphone. So I started off with a Snowball Ice, is the name of the Snowball. It was a multi-directional microphone that I used. Then I moved on and I got myself a Rode NT-USB microphone. And then when I start making a little bit more money, I wanted to start getting Shure microphones because they're the best brand of microphone in my opinion. And this is one of their entry-level microphones. So it's I think it's a Shure M, as in Mic 1. I think that's what it's called. If you can email me though if you want, I can send you the link to the direct one that I bought it from, or where I got it on Amazon. Corbin said, feels like this Isak saga has went on all year. It's been a while, yeah. It's definitely been a while. But like Dougleash there said a moment ago, I think in this there's a bit more goodwill towards the recruitment team in this window because of the great work that's done at the start of it. So it does feel like it's dragged on though. And if you guys ever have any questions around equipment or want any tips or anything like that, please feel free to ask. Anything I can help you with or pass on. If you're thinking of starting your own podcast or whatever, let me know. Naturalist said, if after spending so much but we fail to have a balanced team with good backups and able to compete on all four fronts, would it still be considered a good transfer window? It would be considered a good transfer window, but not a great transfer window, Naturalist, for me, because you haven't addressed all the deficiencies in the squad. Nobody's going to sit here and say that any of the players we signed aren't good enough to play for Liverpool, or at least most of us would agree that every single one of the ones brought in, with potentially Mamadashvili is the unknown because we haven't seen enough of him in a Liverpool shirt or in the way that we play. The rest of them, I think we'd all say, yeah, great signings, but we still need more bodies in. Tony said, can't understand the Wirtz though. His quality, only natural to take a couple of games to adjust. So I don't know, Tony, if that's aimed at the conversation with me that we had earlier on about why I wouldn't play him or Kirkes against Newcastle, or I don't know if you're talking about the completely over-the-top reaction that we've seen on social media, because, again, I'll come back to what's the modus operandi of the people who are having that conversation? Are they Liverpool fans who really think that Florian Wirtz isn't good enough? Or are they opposition club fans who are looking for any confirmation bias they can get to make themselves feel better about belittling and undermining a piece of business that Liverpool done? And I would say it's probably the latter. So it makes me smile, Tony, when I see stuff like that, bro, because it just lets me know we're doing something right, because they know. If Florian Wirtz had have gone to United, Arsenal, Chelsea, City, anyone, do you think that we wouldn't be sitting here scared? Because I would. And I said as much about Wirtz. If he goes to City, we're screwed. But he didn't. And he came to Liverpool. And I'm loving the copium. And I'm loving the excuse making. And yeah, I live for this shit, honestly. It's so transparently clear that these people are just worried about Liverpool. You know, you don't talk so much about these things if you're not worried about the opposition. So, yeah, bring it on. Let's see over the course of time who's right, our recruitment team and us Liverpool fans, or everybody else. People need to save their views on how we're playing. These boys' hearts are broken. Salah's action said it all at the end of the game. They're playing with heavy hearts. They'll do us proud. Absolutely. And I couldn't even imagine not only suffering what they went through with a teammate and a brother, but having to grieve in public. And every time, you know, we've played maybe 5, 6 games, something like that, since Diogo tragically died and Andre. And every time, be it, you know, in Hong Kong, in Japan, at Preston, the Community Shield, the game against Newcastle, everybody has wanted to show their respect, be it the fans in these countries or the neutrals at Wembley. And every occasion that we've played since, up until probably the Newcastle game, they've been reminded before every game of what they lost, the player, the person, the friend. So it's more than fair to talk about the emotional toll on them, because it's uncharted territory. Like, as I said at the time when Diogo passed, we look at these guys like superheroes, because they're like, we live our dreams vicariously through these guys, and we think that they're supremely fit athletes who eat right and do all the things that should give them longevity in their life. So for someone to lose their life and be taken away like that, I can't imagine it. And I can't imagine how they're trying to make sense of it or get through it, and then to do that in the public eye with the pressure of their professional duties that come along with it as well on the pitch. It's very fair comment. Owen said, if Newcastle want to keep Isak and destroy the morale of the club, then get 2 cheaper attackers and Guehi and improve the squad. Still a lot of money left. Agree. There certainly is plenty of money. Like, Liverpool have now recouped over £200 million since the sale of Doak. So, you know, that's a lot of money, which puts us, oh God, I'm working off memory here. We don't have the brand new net spendometer done yet. So I'm thinking, what are we at, about 80? Something like that now? 80, 85 million pound net spend? I'm working off memory here, but maybe it's a bit more than that, taking into account Leone. But so let's call it 100 even. That's not a figure that makes us think we don't have more money available. There definitely is more money and availability to do it. So let's see, if we brought in Guehi and we brought in Isak, that would be another probably 160 million, 165 million. Which makes the net spend 265, which looks much bigger. But then again, we probably see maybe Elliott go a 40, 45, which will bring it back down. But look, if we get Isak and Guehi, 10 out of 10 window for me. Get in Fofana on top of that, or another young winger. Again, still 10 out of 10, but an even bigger thumbs up 10 out of 10. Craig Bowen said 84 million after Doak sale. Like, that's good money. Good money for Liverpool to bring in over £200 million for players, and outside of Diaz, every other player we probably expected to move on and don't really have too many qualms about what we're losing. We've still got to go to the Dicko Stadium. Dave, I was trying to think earlier on about the nickname to that and how I pronounce it. Do I say the Dick in Son Stadium, or, you know, or do we just call it Everton's Gaff? I don't know. Either way, it's one of the more unique stadium sponsorship names. Craig, does this make it less likely to sign Isak now? Look, hard to know how Newcastle are going to react to the valuation of Visa. Like, I'll be honest, £60 million valuation is an absolute piss take. It is. And if I was Newcastle and their fans, I'd be really frustrated by that. But then again, Utara went for what, 43, 45 million quid, and he scored 7 goals in the Prem. So it depends. And again, we're going to talk about promises, right? What was Wissa told by Brentford? And one thing we seem to have learned over the last few months is promises from football clubs seem to be worth jack shit unless they're written down. Because Isak felt he was made a promise. Wissa feels he was made a promise. And I would say there's probably a few more. Gyökeres feels he was made a promise. And these promises need to start being documented or written down, because a lot of it isn't coming to fruition, is it? Neil said, how is softening the language to keep Isak as they don't have an alternative striker? I'm trying to give you an answer that would remove my Liverpool bias in the situation. I think underneath it all, being sensible and thinking about the impact over the course of a season, honestly do think selling Isak's the right option with how determined he is to get out anyway. This doesn't feel like it's a Luis Suarez with us type situation. It feels like he's not going to put his best in. Even if he says, yeah, I'll stay and Newcastle keep him. Like I said, if he feels a niggle, is he going to play through the pain barrier? No. Is he going to put himself out there and really give it all in a World Cup year? Is he going to try to just keep his fitness ticking over and be ready for the World Cup? I just think at this point, the sensible play is for Newcastle to sell. And even bring in one forward at this point and then go and bring in the second one in January yourself. Just get rid of that toxicity and headache. Because even if he's reintegrated into the team, every week the newspapers are still going to be full of Isak in January, Isak in next summer. It's not going to go away because he doesn't want to be there. So the only way it goes away forever is if they sell him. And that's surely got to be the sensible play here. Naturalist said, contracts are useless too. While fans are complaining about Isak having a long contract, they look at Man United pushing Højlund out when he has a contract, so the contract is a joke with the clubs. It's one of these other hypocrisies that we speak about all the time in football. And let's be honest, we're all self-serving. We want what's best for our clubs in this particular instance. So, if United fans feel like moving Højlund out allows them to do something else, I'm sure they won't take a second to push him out the door, and I understand that. For me, one of the questions has always been put, do you think this situation with Isak concerns you if he comes in because it might happen to you in the future? No, doesn't bother me one bit, because I think Liverpool is a destination club that Isak feels he can win everything he wants to win at. So, no, his behaviour in this instance doesn't bother me. I don't like seeing it happen, but whatever results in us getting our player, I will openly say, hi, I'm Craig, I'm a massive hypocrite, go get me Isak. Because it looks after our best interests. Aaron said, I'm off the Isak wagon. Hugo hasn't put a foot wrong. I'll be gutted to see him benched. So I'll finish your comment first. Either him or Gakpo bench, Guehi, backup striker and a winger. So love the Hugo Ekitike, love, mate. And like yourself, I'm all in now on Hugo. I think he's been brilliant from what we've seen of him. Certainly, I feel very foolish not knowing more about him or knowing how good he would be when he came in. But so far, yeah, like you said, hasn't put a foot wrong. Still think we shouldn't think of it as such a binary option of Isak coming in, Ekitike getting benched. I think it's just another great option, because either way, either in a game, let's say Gakpo is put onto the bench and it's Isak to the centre, Salah on the right and and Ekitike on the left. Gakpo coming off a bench with 30 to go is still a great option. Or if it's Gakpo that starts and Hugo's on the bench with 30 to go, still a great option. And that's what this should be about for us. So I'm still all in, mate, personally. Because we only have one centre forward at the club at the minute. Last year we had two. May have thought we could upgrade one or both, but we had two. Jayden Danns scored, I think, today for the 21s, if I'm right on that as well. So good to see him getting back and getting minutes. But I still want two centre forwards. Kyle, so we need backup for Canade. Virgil, Leone has arrived. Give Palace 40-45 million for Guehi. We know what the story is with Isak. We have Gomez. Now, fair point, Kyle. You can say he probably won't be fit enough for the entire season, and I totally get that, mate. But we do have the cover. So we have cover in both centre-back positions now. But what we don't have is a confirmation of Canade's future. And until that's resolved, I'm still nervy. Somebody said, are we going to get the Marc deal done before the first Champions League game? I think so. I don't think the Champions League starts till September, if my memory's right. So, yeah, I think we will have plenty of time to get Marc in before the Champions League kicks off. I think that doesn't start till September, the group stages anyway, or the league format. What if Gomez will be the right back cover and Frimpong will be the Salah cover? But again, we're thinking binary here. So Gomez can be more than one thing at once. So he can be a right back cover. We've two right backs. We've Frimpong and Bradley. Yes, Bradley's injured, but we still have two right backs. So we've got options there. I personally don't see Frimpong as a realistic Salah replacement in any meaningful sense of the word. Yes, he's a wing back who can play further up, but I don't expect him to have the same impact in a game on the right wing as Salah would have. And I don't expect him to be anywhere near as strong in his left foot as Salah would be coming inside. So that to me never made sense. I can live with it for 6 games a few weeks in an AFCON, but I don't think of Frimpong really as a right wing option. I don't personally. Cole said people forget 6-7 year contracts are the benefit of the club spreading the cost, transfer wages. So Cole, I might be wrong on this, but I think it can only be amortized over 5 years, at least the transfer fee part of it. So I remember when I think this was changed after Chelsea started their antics, but I think if you bring in a player, even if you put them on a 6, 7, 8 year contract, the transfer fee itself can only be amortized over 5 maximum. So it doesn't really benefit the club. It just means the club have 7 or 8 years worth of wages that they're committed to. So if anything, it puts the club under a bit more financial stress longer term. But the amortization part, I think, is capped at 5 years. John Hunnable, thank you for gifting a membership. John, very kind of you, mate. How do you line up for the AFCON game or the Arsenal game during the AFCON? Oh, I don't know, mate. Because how can I say here to give you a lineup now when I don't know who's going to be at the club by 1st of September, who's going to be injured? So it's too far ahead to be thinking. I have a little phrase that I like to say. That's future Craig's problem. Craig Bowen said you can only spread transfer costs over 5 years, so the 6, 7, 8, 10 year contracts don't do anything for the club's finances. Oliver said, is it true that on August 26th, Isak can buy himself out of the contract, who's a free agent? No. The short answer is no. So let me explain this a little bit better. I think it was one of the aggregator accounts that I'd seen first kind of pose this idea of Isak buying himself out of the contract. And in very, very specific circumstances, that is possible. But it's important we caveat the specific circumstances. So, if Isak wasn't being paid, or Newcastle were having financial worries, or something like that, and there was a valid reason, then there is a world where, yes, he could buy himself out of his contract, but it still leaves him and any club he signs for open to compensation costs. Because whatever we say about buying himself out of his contract and paying up the remaining years of it, that's not going to touch the transfer fee. And if you start introducing, we'll say, okay, Liverpool then will cover that cost of it. Well, then Liverpool get dragged into litigation. So, no, short answer is that isn't a possibility. And anybody that's trying to say that that's that simple and done it is misinformed. Adrian said, "Hey Craig, great to be part of this group." Well, welcome in, Adrian. It's great to have you, mate. Thank you. Itachi said, "I'm getting a little nervous about the Isak story. He wants us, we want him. I want a happy ending." Won't be getting a happy ending here, dude. Even though, despite what John wanted from earlier on, not happening. See, John, I can go forever, mate. That's not what she said. I want a happy ending, but there is a but. I'm nervous about it as well, dude. I can't help but feel like, who was it said this earlier on? This gentleman here, Doug Leash. I can't help but kind of feel what he said makes sense as well. That I'm nervous, but there has to be a plan, because I know these are intelligent people that are working on this for us, and there has to be a plan. Lord have mercy said, "Get Fofana in and wait for Isak now or January." Nothing wrong with that idea either, mate. Yeah, no argument about that. Lexi, what a cool name, by the way. Lexi Week said, "Craig, love your videos. Been watching since 2022. Keep up the good work." Thank you. And really cool name, Lexi. So well done, Mum and Dad, for that one. Craig, I can't believe Liverpool got 75 million for Diaz. He's only worth like 50 million. We got 75 million euro. I think we got about 60 million pound for Luis Diaz. I'd say I thought it was a little bit in the high side myself, but I guess it was always going to be for Liverpool to sell to a European rival, and we knew that the money was going to be there from the Saudi Pro League as well. So I think it was good business, but I'm not going to lie, I'm still concerned about the depth we have in attack. Do you believe Hugo Ekitike will blossom and eventually grow to rival the likes of Ian Rush in the club scoring charts? Oh, I don't know. Don't know about the numbers, and I don't mean this to sound weird, but I don't really. Yes, you have to score a certain amount of goals, and you do have to tick over. But as long as Liverpool are winning games of football, whether Salah gets 50 and Ekitike gets 7, or they get 30 each, I don't mind. As long as we're scoring goals, winning games of football, the more the goals can be spread around, probably the better, because it means we're less reliant on one particular individual to make the magic happen. But the early signs of Hugo Ekitike are really promising. Really, really promising. Great work ethic, lovely touch, good link-up play, very strong, and you would imagine he'll get stronger as well. Just really, really, really good positive signs early doors. Newcastle fans are huge hypocrites, forgetting what Gordon did in 2023 before moving from Everton. I know, mate, and you're right, Aris. They are, and again, look at what Yoane Wissa is doing right now. And Arsenal fans are mad hypocrites as well. Look at what Gyökeres did, and they're there saying, "Oh, poor Newcastle. Oh, Isak's acting like such a blah blah blah." All hypocrites, mate. Every single fucking one of them. But like I said, I've said this particular phrase many times. The thing I fear most in life is a dangerous idiot, and somebody who thinks they have it all sussed, but they're really not actually very self-aware whatsoever. That's dangerous. Now, some of these people are baiting. They do know what they're doing, and they are on social media looking for a reaction and trying to undermine Liverpool. But in any of these situations, I ask myself, what's this person's MO? What's their modus operandi? What are they trying to achieve from what they're doing? And usually it's to undermine Liverpool, because why would an Arsenal or a United or a Chelsea fan be going, "I hope Liverpool get Isak"? Yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to be there, and common sense. You want somebody to be happy, and they won't. Same as this bullshit about Florian Wirtz. Robbed, fleeced. Wirtz is terrible. Okay, can I go back through all of your social medias for the last 2 years, and I will find posts talking about how amazing he is and how you love your club to sign him. It's all just coping mechanisms. Right, so after 3,160 votes, the answer that people feel the most happy with is that we still need 2 signings. So 55% of people said 2 signings. 35% of people said 3 signings. And I think I'm somewhere in amongst those 2 main answers. Yeah, 35% of people said 3 signings. 55% of people said 2 signings. I'm somewhere in between both of you guys. I could live with 2. 3 would make me feel a bit happier. Craig, you're a huge legend. Greetings from Greece. Thank you very much. Oh, hot Greece, excuse me. It's a lovely country. I worked in Greece for a few months as a DJ previously. It's been there a couple of times. It's been a long time since I've been over there, but yeah, love Greece. Robert said, on Rio, is it possible that Slot thought the moment was too big for a debut? Wembley and Anfield under the lights could be pretty daunting for young players. Burnley away seems like a good spot to me. That is certainly a very fair point, Robert. Could be, mate. Could be, yeah. Maybe that particular evening with the emotion that was in it as well at Anfield. Yeah, he could be looking to protect them. So I guess probably to be fair, Robert, let's... I should probably revisit this in, a couple of months' time when the season's really got its legs, and we'll see how much game time that he gets. But yeah, good point, mate. Thank you. Oh, so let's talk Costas for a minute, actually, because this one from Fabrizio Romano, he said that Costas' exit is expected to accelerate as Liverpool could also open to potential initial loan proposals. The left back is prepared to leave as Kirkes and Andy Robertson will be Arna's choice for left back. I have to say, if it ends up in a loan, I'm really surprised that there isn't more interest in Isak, because, or it's not Isak, oh fucking Isak on the brain, in Costas, because, he's an international left back who played at the Champions League for Liverpool, won the league with Liverpool. I would have thought there would at least been 15, 20 million pound buyers out there from. So it's interesting to see what does happen there and, where he may end up. I have a sneaky feeling we could see him in Serie A, but let's wait and see. Just want to again report on this. The AFP news agency have said a man arrested on suspicion of racially abusing Bournemouth forward Antoine Semenyo during the opening game of the Premier League season has been banned from every football stadium in the UK. Damn right. I gotta again reiterate, and I know I speak for everybody on this, there is no room for that level of scumbaggery or behaviour in sport, in football, in society, at Anfield or anywhere else. Antoine Semenyo or any other black player or any other gay player or any other player of a different religion or whatever other reason people try to vilify them shouldn't happen. There's enough things to throw at these footballers if you want to get in their heads. You're shit. This throw-in's going nowhere. You couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo. Loads of fun shit that you can throw at these footballers if you want to try to get in their head. But what level of arsehole do you have to be to wheel yourself up and say something racially? He deserves whatever punishment he gets, because that is disgusting. And I know I speak for everybody when I say we're sorry that happened to Antoine Semenyo. We categorically refute the need for it to be done. We absolutely do not condone the man's behaviour. No place at our football club, no place in our fandom, no place, end of, in the strongest possible terms. Like, it riles me something fierce that in this day and age, people still think skin tone is a reason to belittle somebody, especially somebody as seemingly classy as Semenyo, because his response and his post I thought was beautiful, articulate, didn't try to vilify Liverpool or the fans. And for all my misgivings and anger towards Anthony Taylor, of which I have many, I have to say on 2 huge occasions where I've been involved in watch-alongs where Anthony Taylor was dealing with major incidents. I was doing a watch-along on That's Football when Christian Eriksen had his heart issue, and I thought Anthony Taylor was magnificent in the way, on a human level, he dealt with that. And I thought the way Anthony Taylor dealt with this situation, bringing the managers and the captains in and speaking to him, again, I couldn't praise him highly enough for that. but it's an unsavoury incident that nobody wants to see in football again, because it shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't happen. Itachi said, I want Isak to be a red and score a goal versus Newcastle at Anfield next year and doing his thumb celebration. That would be lovely. It really would. Josh said, in bed, cuppa, Craig on telly, life's good. Nice. Well, thank you, mate. And, you know, don't be farting under the covers, but do. You know, treat them as a freezer. And thank you, Josh. Appreciate you, mate. Semenyo's pure class and a brilliant footballer, said Didier Van Dessel. Yeah, he is. And even just the mental strength to stay in that game, not let it get in his head, score the 2 goals the way he did, you know, speaks to the calibre of fella that Semenyo is. Dave ran the video, said he was laughing and joking with fans when taking his throw in most of the time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Dave. No need for it, mate. No need for it. And like you said, he was in good spirits, having a good laugh, and, you know, understanding the banter that comes with playing footy. So yeah, just yeah, it's just sad, man. It really just hurts me to see that still in society. My disgust was not just the racial discrimination, but that a Liverpool fan would disgrace an occasion dedicated to Diogo. What a twat. Yeah, Esther, that's very fair. Very fair. That was a night where it was about Diogo, his family, his legacy, his memory. And like you rightly said, not only did they tarnish themselves and, you know, the club, they did it on a night where it was supposed to be a celebration of the life of Diogo. And I want to just actually say that again, thanking all football fans, because even at at Old Trafford, our biggest of rivals, the minute silence was impeccable, and fair play to the United fans and every other set of fans. Fair play to Chelsea and their players for, you know, donating some of their winnings from the Club World Cup to Diogo Jota's family and good causes. Yeah, that's the side of football that I love. That's the side of football that does special things. Like, when the Super League happened, that was magic. The way everybody came together, and we knew what needed to be done. We knew what needed to be said. And we knew we could put aside club allegiances and differences. And I think in this situation again, football didn't let itself down. Football and its fandom was brilliant, and it means a lot to me to know, that respect was there. So I won't forget that anyway. Bruno said Ekitike being good shouldn't stop us going for Isak. Competition and versatility is part of a successful team. Absolutely, sir. Same as Szoboszlai and Wirtz, and I agree and echo your point entirely. Yeah. Can't have too many. I'd rather have too many good players and have that headache than be scratching around not having enough. So, quick thing. If I can ask you a little favour, if you can, do hit that like button for me. We are 836. If we can get that up over 1,000, that would be incredible. Thank you, by the way, to everyone that has subscribed. I didn't even notice that we'd gone past 344,000 earlier on. Thank you to everyone that helped us get there. 6 to go until 350k. So again, thank you for all of your support in that regard. If you haven't joined up to our WhatsApp, scan that QR code there on the screen and that will bring you across. The podcast, episode number 3, will be out for members in 35 minutes. It'll be out at 11 p.m. tonight for members and 11 a.m. on Spotify and on YouTube for non-members. So this week it was myself, Chris and Connor. Steve was unavailable last minute because of life happens sometimes, and Connor jumped in, and that'll be out 11 o'clock. Hope you enjoy it. David said, as a mixed race man, I'm proud on how the club handled it. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm proud how everybody, rightly disowns that individual, and that sentiment is not welcome. So absolutely, David, and thank you. am I the only one who's kind of done with all of it and just wants the window to close? Oh, I definitely get that. Dark Minon. Yeah, it can really wear you down mentally. Transfer windows, definitely. So for all the ups, there's some downs and some frustrations. So I do get it, and I certainly breathe a sigh of relief when the window closes. Whether we're happy or not, that's another thing. But I totally can get that sentiment. Fair play to all of our rivals in football. We're all one. Every club was class. Yeah, and Wolves and how they welcomed Diogo's family. To Molineux and the tifo and everything else, and walking fields of goals was a beautiful touch as well. Yeah, absolutely. As you said, Itachi was it was the good side of football on display. Shay Trainer said Isak's the most boring saga of all time. I don't know, Shay. I wouldn't say I'm loving every minute of it or ratting, mate, but I think a saga is defined by how it ends up. So if it ends up in us signing him, I think we look back on this in a few months' time and we were thinking, what were we stressing about? Or, we got there in the end. If you don't get the player, and then it's a different situation, I think. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to go and I'm going to record tonight's late night news update video. As I said, tomorrow back as normal, video 4:30, 4:45, late night agenda. We will change that to the 100 at some point, but for now we'll still say late night agenda. And as I mentioned, the podcast for members will be out at 11 p.m. and for everybody else, it'll be available on YouTube and on Spotify as a video podcast at 11 a.m. in the morning. Appreciate you. Really fun stream tonight. Thank you for being awesome as always, and appreciate your support. We'll see you tomorrow.